I want to talk to you today about how God reveals fake people in your life. There are moments when we question why certain relationships end, why people we trusted suddenly change, or why we feel uneasy about someone we once welcomed with open arms. But I want to encourage you, God is not trying to hurt you. He is protecting you. Some people were never meant to go where God is taking you. They were part of a season, but not your destiny. God will allow situations to unfold, not to harm you, but to reveal the truth. Maybe you've experienced betrayal, disappointment, or someone walking away without explanation. It's easy to feel hurt, to wonder why things didn't work out, but understand this. God sees what you don't see. He hears conversations you never heard. He knows intentions that were hidden from you. Sometimes He will allow people to leave, not as a loss, but as a blessing. Other times He'll show you their true colors before they have a chance to hurt you further. It may not feel good at the moment, but trust that every exposure is an act of God's protection. Don't chase after people He is removing. Don't hold on to relationships that drain your peace. Instead, trust that God is leading you toward divine connections, people who will celebrate you, pray for you, and push you toward your purpose. Let them go. Let God reveal. And step forward in faith, knowing that every removal is making room for something better. There are times in life when we don't understand why certain people walk away. Maybe it was a friend you trusted, someone you confided in, or even a family member who suddenly changed. You were loyal, you showed up for them, but when you needed them, they were nowhere to be found. It can be painful, confusing, and even frustrating. You might ask, God, why would you allow this? Why did they turn against me? I thought they were for me. But what if I told you that their departure wasn't by accident? What if God removed them not to hurt you, but to protect you? You see, God knows things you don't know. He hears conversations you weren't there for. He sees intentions that were hidden from you. There are people who smile to your face, but secretly root against you. People who seem supportive, but deep down they're envious of what God is doing in your life. And because God loves you too much to let that kind of influence stay around you, He allows them to leave. Maybe they betrayed you, maybe they walked away without explanation, or maybe the relationship just faded over time. Instead of trying to hold on, instead of getting bitter, trust that God's removal is always for your good. Some people are like weights in your life, holding you back from your destiny. You may not see it now, but if they had stayed, they would have drained your energy, distracted you from your purpose, or even led you down the wrong path. When God removes someone, don't chase after them. Don't try to reopen a door that He has closed. If they left, it means their part in your story is over. The people God intends for you will never require you to beg for their loyalty. The right people will come into your life and bring peace, encouragement, and joy, not confusion, stress, and heartbreak. So instead of mourning what's lost, start rejoicing for what's ahead. The wrong people had to go so the right ones could come. The people who walked away made space for those who will truly love and support you. Trust that God is protecting you, and what He has ahead is far greater than anything you left behind. Have you ever been around someone and for some reason something just didn't feel right? Maybe they were kind, they said all the right things, but deep down you couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. You couldn't put your finger on it, but every time you were around them, there was a sense of unease. That feeling wasn't just random, it was God speaking to you. Sometimes we ignore those subtle warnings. We tell ourselves, maybe I'm overthinking it, maybe I'm being too sensitive. But what if that discomfort was God's way of protecting you? What if he was trying to open your eyes before you got hurt? God gives us discernment, a spiritual awareness that helps us see beyond the surface. When someone isn't meant to be in your life, when their motives aren't pure, when they're operating with hidden agendas, that discomfort is a signal from God. You may have a friend who always seems supportive, but for some reason, when you share your dreams with them, you sense tension. They smile, but their words feel empty. They say, "I'm happy for you," but their energy doesn't match their words. That's not a coincidence. That's God letting you know something isn't right. Or maybe you've been in a relationship where on paper everything looks fine, but deep inside you feel restless. You don't have peace about it. You try to convince yourself that everything is okay, but no matter how hard you try, you can't shake the feeling that something is off. That's not just doubt. That's God trying to get your attention. God doesn't always reveal fake people with loud, obvious signs. Sometimes he speaks in whispers. He tugs at your spirit. He makes you feel uneasy. The question is, will you listen? Many times we ignore the signs because we don't want to believe them. We don't want to accept that someone we care about might not be genuine. But the longer we hold on, the more we allow the wrong people to stay in our lives, the harder it becomes to move forward. The next time you feel that discomfort, don't dismiss it. Take a step back and pray. Ask God, are you trying to show me something? Is there something I need to see? Because when God wants to protect you, he won't always shout. Sometimes he'll simply let you feel it. And when you feel it, trust it. That discomfort isn't there to torment you. It's there to guide you toward the truth. Difficult seasons have a way of revealing the truth about the people around us. When everything is going well, when life is smooth and easy, it's not hard to find people who celebrate with you. Everyone wants to be around success, joy, and abundance. But the real test of a relationship isn't found in the good times. It's found in the struggle. It's in the moments of disappointment, heartbreak, and hardship that people's true character comes to light. Have you ever faced a trial and noticed that some of the people you thought would be there for you suddenly became distant? Maybe you hit a rough patch in your finances, and the ones who always called when you had money to spend stopped checking in. Maybe you faced a personal crisis and the people who used to encourage you started avoiding your calls. Or maybe you went through a painful situation and instead of standing by your side, some turned against you, criticized you, or even spread rumors about you. That's not an accident. That's exposure. God allows trials in our lives for many reasons, but one of the biggest is to show us who truly belongs in our circle. Some people are only there for what they can get from you. They enjoy your kindness, your generosity, your influence, but the moment they can no longer benefit, they disappear. Others may claim loyalty, but the moment you face opposition, they reveal their true nature. They may not have left physically, but their actions change. They no longer support you. They no longer encourage you. And some may even start working against you. It's painful to see people's true colors, but it's also a gift. God doesn't expose people to hurt you. He does it to free you. You don't need people in your life who are only there for convenience. You don't need friends who celebrate you in public but talk about you in private. You don't need relationships built on shallow connections that crumble under pressure. When trials come, pay attention. Who shows up? Who stands by you when you have nothing to offer? Who prays for you, encourages you, and lifts you up when life gets hard? And just as importantly, who walks away? Who suddenly has excuses, who stops answering your calls and disappears when things get tough? That's your aunt. Don't be discouraged when people fall away in hard times. Be thankful that God is removing those who were never truly for you. Because when the wrong people leave, it makes space for the right people to enter. Those who remain through the trials, those who stand by you in the storm, those are the people God has sent to walk with you into your destiny. Actions will always speak louder than words. People can say all the right things. They can promise loyalty, love, and support, but if their actions don't align with their words, that's a sign from God that something isn't right. Inconsistencies are not just small mistakes or occasional forgetfulness. They are red flags, warning signs that God allows you to see so you don't invest in relationships that will ultimately hurt you. Have you ever had someone tell you, "I've got your back," but when you needed them, they were nowhere to be found? Have you ever confided in a friend only to hear your private struggles repeated by others? Have you ever noticed how some people only show up when they need something, but when you need them, they are full of excuses? That's inconsistency. And inconsistency reveals character. Someone who is truly for you will be the same in private as they are in public. They won't just encourage you when others are watching, only to criticize you behind closed doors. They won't commit to helping you, only to back out the moment it becomes inconvenient. They won't claim to love and support you, only to act differently when you're not around. God allows these inconsistencies to be revealed for a reason. He doesn't want you to be deceived. He doesn't want you to pour your heart, time, and energy into relationships that are built on shaky foundation. Sometimes we ignore the warning signs because we want to believe the best in people. We excuse their behavior, hoping that they will change. But God is showing you who they truly are. And when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Pay attention to the patterns. Do they say they care about you, yet constantly let you down? Do they promise to support you, yet disappear when things get tough? Do they act like your friend when you're together, yet speak negatively about you when you're not around? These are not minor things to overlook. These are clear indicators that their heart is not fully with you. The right people will be consistent. Their love will not be conditional. Their support will not be seasonal. And their loyalty will not be based on what they can gain from you. When God reveals inconsistencies in people, it's not to make you bitter, it's to make you wiser. It's to help you see who is truly meant to be part of your journey and who is only passing through for a season. Don't waste time trying to fix one-sided relationships. Don't ignore what God is trying to show you. Instead, recognize the inconsistencies for what they are. A sign that this person may not be who they claim to be. And once you see it, make peace with it. Because when you remove the wrong people, you make room for the right ones. The ones who are consistent, loyal, and truly sent by God. One of the most painful experiences in life is putting your trust in someone, believing their promises, only to be left with disappointment. People will tell you they will always be there. They will say they have your back, that they will support you, that they will never leave. But when the time comes for them to stand by their word, they disappear. They make excuses. They delay what they once promised. And in some cases, they even turn against you. It hurts when someone you trusted proves to be unreliable. Maybe you had a friend who always said, "I'll help you when the time comes." But when you needed them, they suddenly became too busy. Maybe someone promised to invest in your vision, to show up for you, but when the moment arrived, they backed out with no explanation. Or maybe you opened up your heart to someone, believing they were trustworthy, only for them to betray your confidence, spreading what you shared in private. These moments of broken promises and betrayal are not just coincidences, they are revelations. God allows these things to happen not to harm you, but to open your eyes. He doesn't want you building your life on shaky foundations. He doesn't want you depending on people who only speak empty words but never follow through. One of the ways God reveals fake people is by exposing their inability to be consistent. A person with true integrity doesn't need to be reminded to keep their word. They don't make promises they have no intention of keeping. They don't change their loyalty based on what is convenient for them, but fake people will tell you what you want to hear in the moment, only to leave you wondering why their actions never match their words. And then there's betrayal. It's one thing for someone to let you down by failing to keep a promise, but it's another thing entirely when they betray you. Maybe you shared a dream, and instead of supporting you, they discouraged you or even sabotaged your efforts. Maybe you confided in them only to have them turn around and use your words against you. Maybe they acted as a friend when you were around, but behind your back they spoke against you or sided with those who wanted to see you fail. As painful as it is, betrayal is often the very thing that pushes you into your next season. God doesn't allow betrayal to break you. He allows it to reveal the people who were never meant to walk with you into your destiny. Look at Joseph. His own brothers betrayed him, selling him into slavery. But what they meant for harm, God used for good. Jesus himself was betrayed by someone who walked closely with him, but that betrayal set into motion the very purpose he came to fulfill. Don't waste your energy being bitter about delayed promises or betrayals. Instead, see them as a sign that God is clearing the path. If someone could betray you, that means they were never truly for you. If someone could walk away from you, that means their part in your story is over. Let them go. God is faithful to bring the right people into your life, people who will keep their word, who will be trustworthy, who will walk with you in loyalty and integrity. But before he does that, he has to first remove the ones who never should have been there in the first place. When someone breaks a promise, when someone betrays your trust, don't fight to hold on. Instead, lift your head, trust God's process, and know that every loss is making room for something greater. As you walk with God, as you grow in your faith, something begins to change in you. You start seeing things differently. What once seemed normal now doesn't feel right. The people you used to trust without question start saying things that don't sit well in your spirit. The relationships you once depended on begin to feel heavy. You can't explain it fully, but deep inside something is shifting. That shift is called discernment. Spiritual discernment is God's way of giving you insight beyond what the natural eye can see. It's when you start noticing patterns you once ignored, when words alone are no longer enough to convince you, when you require actions to match. You no longer get easily swayed by charm or smooth talk. Instead, you sense when something is off. At first, discernment might feel like a gut feeling, but it's deeper than that. It's God's voice within you whispering, "Pay attention." It's that uneasiness you feel when someone's motives aren't pure. It's that sudden awareness that a person isn't who they claim to be. The closer you walk with God, the clearer your spiritual vision becomes. What once fooled you no longer does. What once distracted you no longer has power over you. Think back to times when you ignored the red flags. Maybe there was a person in your life who constantly made excuses, but you kept giving them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe you felt uneasy about a friend, but convinced yourself that you were just overthinking. And then later, the truth came out. That person wasn't who they pretended to be. They weren't truly for you. God was trying to show you all along. But because your discernment wasn't fully developed, you dismissed the signs. But as you grow, as you learn to listen to God's guidance, you begin to recognize these things sooner. You no longer need people to hurt you multiple times before you realize they were never meant to stay. You no longer excuse bad behavior just because you have history with someone. You no longer second guess the warning signs that God places in your path. One of the ways God develops discernment in you is by allowing experiences that teach you wisdom. Sometimes He permits you to go through betrayal so that next time you recognize the signs earlier. Sometimes He allows you to feel the pain of trusting the wrong people so that in the future you learn to seek His direction before letting someone too close. The lessons may not always be easy, but they are necessary. When your spiritual discernment grows, you gain confidence in your ability to sense what is right and what is wrong. You no longer tolerate relationships that drain you. You no longer ignore that uneasy feeling when someone's energy doesn't match their words. You trust that God is guiding you, that He is protecting you from unseen dangers. So don't be frustrated when certain people start to feel different to you. Don't be alarmed when you suddenly start sensing that someone is not as genuine as they appear. That's not paranoia, that's discernment. That's God sharpening your spiritual vision, helping you see beyond the surface. The more you listen, the more He will reveal. The more you trust Him, the more He will guide you. And as your discernment grows, you'll no longer have to wonder who is for you and who isn't, because God will make it clear. All you have to do is pay attention. There are moments in life when doors suddenly close and we don't understand why. Maybe it was an opportunity you were excited about, a friendship you valued, or a relationship you thought would last forever. Everything seemed to be going well, and then out of nowhere things changed. The door shut, the connection faded, the person walked away. And you were left wondering, why did this happen? What did I do wrong? It's natural to feel frustrated when doors close unexpectedly. Our first instinct is often to try to force them back open. We reach out, we try to fix things, we ask God to restore what was lost. But what if that closed door was actually God's way of protecting you? What if it was never meant to be permanent in the first place? God sees what we cannot see. He knows the hidden motives of people, the unseen dangers that lie ahead, and the places that would have led to harm instead of blessing. Sometimes He closes doors not because He wants to hurt us, but because He wants to redirect us. He knows that if we stay connected to the wrong people, if we hold on to relationships that have run their course, we'll miss out on something far greater. Think about the times in your life when you tried to hold on to something that God was trying to remove. Maybe it was a friendship that once brought joy but started to feel heavy. You knew things were changing, but you held on because of history. Maybe it was a job that felt secure, even though you knew deep down it wasn't where you were meant to be. Or maybe it was a relationship that you prayed would work out, even though God was clearly showing you it wasn't His best for you. When a door closes, it's not the end, it's a shift. It's a divine redirection. But the longer we try to pry open what God has shut, the more we delay what He has ahead. Some doors close because the people behind them were never meant to go where God is taking you. Some doors close because if they had remained open, you would have settled for less than what God had planned. Some doors close because they were only meant for a season, not a lifetime. Instead of mourning every closed door, start seeing them as a blessing in disguise. Trust that if God allowed it to shut, then He has something better in store. Trust that the wrong people had to leave to make space for the right ones. Trust that the disappointment you feel now will make sense later when you see the bigger picture. The same God who closed the door is the same God who will open a new one. But you have to be willing to move forward. You have to stop looking back at what was and start anticipating what's to come. Every closed door is a step closer to where God wants you to be. You may not understand it now, but one day you will look back and realize that what felt like a loss was actually God's protection. So don't waste time knocking on doors that God has locked. Don't chase people who have already walked away. Don't cry over an opportunity that wasn't meant for you. Instead, lift your head, trust His plan, and walk confidently into the future He has prepared. Because when one door closes, another will always open. And this time it will be exactly what God intended for you all along. There's something powerful that happens when the wrong people leave your life. Peace follows. At first, you may not even recognize it because you're too focused on the loss. You're thinking about how things ended, replaying conversations, wondering what you could have done differently. The absence feels strange. The silence feels heavy. But then something shifts. One day, you wake up and realize you're not carrying the same weight you used to. You're not constantly overanalyzing, second-guessing, or feeling drained. You start to breathe easier. You start to feel lighter. That is peace. That is the confirmation that God removed something that was never meant to stay. So often we fight against God's process of removal because we fear being alone. We think that losing certain people means losing a part of ourselves. But if a relationship costs you your peace, it's too expensive. If someone's presence in your life brings more confusion than clarity, more stress than joy, then their absence is not a loss, it's a blessing. Think about it. How many times have you held on to a friendship, a relationship, or a connection that no longer served you? How many times did you feel uneasy, constantly questioning where you stood with someone, constantly wondering if they were being honest with you, and then when they finally left, when the friendship faded, when the relationship ended, when the door closed, you eventually realized that you felt lighter, that you weren't as anxious, that your mind was no longer consumed with uncertainty. That was God's way of showing you that the relationship was stealing your peace all along. God is not the author of confusion. He does not send people into your life to keep you in a constant state of doubt, exhaustion, or stress. When someone is truly meant to be in your life, there is peace, there is consistency, there is mutual effort. You don't have to beg them to stay. You don't have to prove your worth to them. You don't have to walk on eggshells, afraid that one wrong move will push them away. The right relationships bring peace, not chaos. But here's the truth. Sometimes we don't realize how much someone was affecting our peace until they are gone. It's only after their departure that we notice how much lighter we feel. It's only after their absence that we recognize how much energy we were pouring into something that was never meant to last. So when God removes someone, don't fight it. Don't chase after what He has already taken away. Don't try to resurrect what He has already ended. Instead, lean into the peace that follows. Trust that He has cleared space for something better. Trust that He is bringing the right people into your life, people who will love you without conditions, who will pour into you as much as you pour into them, who will bring stability instead of stress. Peace is one of God's greatest gifts. And when you finally experience the deep, unshakable peace that comes from being surrounded by the right people, you'll never again try to hold on to those who are draining you. You'll never again beg for a place in someone's life because you'll know if their absence brought you peace, then their presence was never meant for you in the first place. When God begins to reveal the wrong people in your life, it may not always feel like a blessing at first. Sometimes it comes with disappointment, confusion, or even heartbreak. You may wonder why certain friendships are fading, why doors are closing, or why you feel uneasy around people you once trusted. But what you have to remember is this: God never removes to hurt you. He removes to protect you. He removes to position you for something better. The wrong people can delay your purpose. They can drain your energy, distort your peace, and distract you from what God is trying to do in your life. And because He loves you too much to let that happen, He will step in. He will allow situations to expose true intentions. He will let delayed promises and betrayals reveal who is truly for you. He will sharpen your discernment so that you no longer second guess the signs. And when He closes a door, when He removes someone from your life, He will follow it with peace. You don't have to force relationships to work. You don't have to beg for someone's loyalty. You don't have to ignore red flags just to keep people around. What's meant for you will stay. What's from God will bring peace. And when the wrong people leave, trust that He is making room for the right ones. So let go of what no longer serves you. Release what God is trying to remove. Stop chasing what He has already closed the door on. And instead walk forward with confidence, knowing that every loss is actually a gain. Every betrayal is a lesson. And every season of removal is a season of preparation for something greater. Trust the process. Trust His plan. And most of all, trust that the people He has for you, those who will love you, uplift you, and walk with you in truth, are already on their way.